I trust in God wherever I may be, upon the land or on the rolling sea. For come what may, from day
title of this sermon is not inspired by the cable television news program hosted by Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC. You know, there is a TV show, a cable news program titled The Last Word, featuring Lawrence O'Donnell. It's on MSNBC, comes on right after Rachel Maddow, okay? The title is taken from an idiom, a figure of speech we use to refer to the most modern or advanced version of something, such as digital is the last word in communications media as opposed to analog. The last word is the most modern or the most advanced design, product, or innovation. Psalm 62 is a meditation about trust. In my email message previewing this worship today, I mentioned some issues related to trust. How can we remain hopeful in the face of life's conflicts and controversies? What are our issues concerning trust? How does the trusting soul behave? What does trusting God look like? What are the risks and the realities one faces and must accept in trusting God? Why do we trust God? These issues are pondered, all of them in a way or another, in this brief Psalm 62. Brief meditation of thanksgiving, a brief meditation of testimony, a brief meditation of exhortation. Psalm 62 has a theme that is announced in the first two verses. For God alone, my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. And then the psalmist expounds on that theme at verse 7 in these words. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. We don't really get the full intensity and emphasis of that testimony in the English version, the English word alone. There's a Hebrew word, ak. It has an phonetic sound and then ak. It carries more punch. And that Hebrew word ak means only. And so think of the theme this way. For God only my soul waits, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. I shall never be shaken. On God only rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is only in God. That's a testimony. That's testimony. The psalmist affirms a personal conviction using personal pronouns. My soul, my hope, my rock, my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. All personal pronouns. Personal pronouns singular. I, my. Testimony always responds to some question, some inquiry. It is given to address a matter about which there is some dispute or controversy. And the psalmist in this word uses figurative language, rock, fortress, refuge, to answer unspoken questions about the what and who and why and how he has hope. The testimony doesn't come out of the blue, as the saying goes. At verses 3 and 4, we get the sense that the psalmist is dealing with or has been dealing with some stuff. The psalmist has been dealing with some drama. How long will you assail a person? Will you batter your victim, all of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence. Their only plan is to bring down a person of prominence. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. Something's been going on. Something's been going on. Something's been up with this person. Life has turned threatening and violent. The psalmist speaks of himself as a victim under attack from forces determined to defeat and dishonor him. His attackers are determined and devious. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. Those are words from someone who knows what it means to be oppressed, brutalized, falsely accused, betrayed. They bring to mind the words of a song, Motown song, Smiling Faces Sometime. I'm the only one who heard it. 1971. Norman Whitfield, Barrett Strong. Originally recorded for the Temptations. But then it was made more famous and hit number 3 in Billboard's Top 100 when it was covered by The Undisputed Truth. The only hit The Undisputed Truth had. Smiling faces sometimes. You recall the line? Smiling faces sometimes tell lies and pretend to be your friend. Smiling faces show no traces of the evil that lurks within. Smiling faces sometimes. Can you dig it? The psalmist testifies that he waits, trusts, hopes, depends, looks, relies on, takes cover in God only, and says, in silence. In other words, I'm not going to say a thing. It brings to mind the situation of the old saints who used to sometimes just cross their arms and hum. They wouldn't say anything. Stuff happened. They just crossed their arms, closed their eyes. And you didn't know what was going on. They just crossed their arms. And the psalmist testifies that only God is trustworthy. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. Only God does not fail. Only God can ultimately provide protection. Only God ultimately delivers. Only God can be trusted with our sense of honor and dignity and worth. And this is the foundation on which the psalmist has built his life. And then the psalmist moved from testimony to exhortation in verse 8. Trust in him only. I'm using only instead of alone. Trust in him only at all times, O people. Notice he says he's going from me and my, I'm talking to y'all now. I come into preaching now. I come into exhorting. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us, not just for me. This testimony can be shared. This confident hope can be known by others. This person realizes that conflicts and controversies and challenges and betrayals meet all of us. Nobody is left out. Everybody has to deal with some drama. And the psalmist names and rules out the usual places we tend to look during times of controversy and conflict and betrayal. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances, they go up. They are together, lighter than a breath. All human beings. In other words, the psalmist says, don't look for folks. Don't look for folks to have your back. All folks are together lighter than a breath. Regardless of rank, regardless of station, regardless of power, regardless of wealth, regardless of fame, regardless of material comforts, put no confidence in extortion, oppression, set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on. In other words, don't you mess around here and put your bank your hopes on your stock options. Don't put your hopes in your 401k. This is a timeless and a timely word. It is timeless because history shows it's true. The seasons of life and the situations and records of human events teach us that it is unwise to rest our trust on people, whether they are powerful or not. It is unwise to rest our lives on notions of power and wealth, on material possessions, or on rulers. History has proven time and again that empires rise and fall. Rulers change. We fail ourselves, yes, and we fail others, even as others fail themselves and fail us. In other words, don't put yourself up too high and trust yourself, because you'll let yourself down. Other people will let you down. You'll let other people down. Don't put your trust in stuff. Stuff will leave you. Stuff will change. In other words, the psalmist cautions us not to put our trust in unworthy forces. Don't lean on stuff that won't hold you up. Don't lean on something that won't prop you up. Don't lean on something that'll break, that'll bend, that'll crumble, that'll rust. Dave Bland teaches homiletics, that's the long word for preaching, at Harding University Graduate School of Religion in Memphis, Tennessee. Dave Bland has a helpful way to help us understand what the psalmist is saying to us. Dave Bland writes, so that you'll like this, the movie The Matrix provides a helpful analogy for getting a better handle on the real versus the unreal. In the film, reality was a lie. A computer-driven conspiracy was created to deceive humans into trusting their sensory perceptions while concealing the truth from them. The psalm teaches that that what we perceive to be real and therefore worthy of our trust is not as certain as the unseen truth. God, the unseen, alone is real, dependable, and trustworthy. It is futile to trust in human strength. Do not depend on humanity. Humanity is only a breath. Close quote. I would only slightly disagree. According to the psalmist, all humans have no weight. No weight. Alan McSween is pastor of the Fourth Presbyterian Church in Greenville, South Carolina, and he offers this commentary on this passage. Using the image of balance scales with two pans suspended from a crossbar, the psalmist insists that all humans beings are weighed, judged by God, rich and poor, powerful and powerless alike. The heavyweights of the world, the movers and the shakers, the rich and the famous, have no weight, no gravitas. Their self-importance is a delusion. Their end of the balance scales goes up instead of down. But the same is true for the weak and the vulnerable, the poor and the defenseless, the victims of injustice. They also have no weight, no substance. Neither rich nor poor, neither powerful nor powerless are able to secure their own lives. Both are, quote, lighter than a breath. Not a breath, lighter than a breath. Lighter. Lighter. Billionaires, lighter. Trump, lighter. Empires, lighter. Corporations, lighter. Pentagon, lighter. So the psalmist turns to the community of faith around him, McSween writes, and exhorts, put no confidence in extortion and set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. One can hear echoes of Ecclesiastes and Jesus. Nothing we have and hold. Nothing we gain, legally or illegally. No securities in the portfolio of our lives can offer the ultimate security that comes from only the God of the powerful, loyal love. The rich cannot secure their lives by the things they amass. The poor cannot secure their lives by getting what the rich and the powerful have. Both are equally vulnerable. Both are equally fleeting. Jesus said it, take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Earlier I said that this psalm makes a truth that is timeless and timely. And I mentioned that human history has proven its timeless truthfulness. Current events show it to be true in a timely way as well as a timeless way. Here we are. The U.S. government is officially shut down. The second day of the second year of the presidency of the 45th President of the United States. Whenever you hear anyone talk about the greatness of Donald Trump or the greatness of the United States or the greatness of any politician or set of politicians, remember Psalm 62. Remember the matrix. Remember what the psalmist said about all human beings together being lighter than Make America Great Again. That's what the psalmist said. You can take your Make America Great Again and when we accept and apply the God-only perspective of the psalmist, we'll stop betting our hopes on health and wealth and power and fame and human relationships. We will wear life loosely. We'll travel through life as beings who cannot be captured and enslaved by oppressive powers and people, but who are free because our ultimate worth and dignity, hope, always rests with God only. Once God has spoken, twice I've heard this, that power belongs to God only, that strength belongs to God only, and steadfast love belongs to you, O Lord, only. And when this truth takes root deep in us, when it takes strong root in us, we can live with prophetic hope through any conflict and any controversy and any challenge. When this truth takes deep and strong root in us, we can discern, as Jesus did, that human authorities may oppress us, but they will never determine our destiny. With the truth that is the foundation for prophetic hope, we will then live as people who are not afraid. People who know that God only has their destiny are the most dangerous people in the world. Because you can't scare them. You can't bully them. You can't boss them. You can't bribe them. You can't beat them to death. You can't run them out. You can beat them and they'll still be who they are because they know that no matter how much you beat them, no matter how much you hurt them, they still belong to God. They will live as prophetic people who dare to obey God's call to inclusive love and liberating justice and will not allow any Pharaoh-looking person whether they call Donald Trump or anybody else, to let them decide that they don't have worth. With prophetic hope, they will not be afraid. They will, no matter what happens, come what may, defy oppressive rulers. They will defy oppressive rules. They will defy entire regimes. That's the story of Moses. That's the story of Jesus. That's the story that God calls for you and me. With prophetic hope, from this testimony that we have from Psalm 62, we'll do justice despite opposition, despite controversy, and despite accusations. We will do justice and love mercy because our lives rest on God's love and God's mercy and God's peace and God's justice and God's strength. It's not resting on the Pentagon. Hopeful people, instead, know the last word is not Donald Trump. The last word is not the United States. It is not the Congress. It is not the Supreme Court. The last word is not any political party or agenda. The last word is not the New York Stock Exchange. The last word is not the Pentagon. It's not the White House. It's not any set of rulers. And hopeful people know that the last word is not failure. It is not injustice. It is not despair. It is not disease. It is not death. It is not defeat. It is not empire. Instead, hopeful people like the psalmist in every age and place affirm the same truth in times of conflict and controversy and threat and anxiety. Again and again and again, we find that word coming up. Psalm 62 is not the only place you find it. Again, it comes up. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the earth was formed, and even before you made the earth and the sea, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou, insert only art God. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. My help comes from the Lord, insert only maker of heaven and earth. The old folks saying, Father, I stretch my hands to thee, only. And then they said, no other help I know. Jesus said it, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Only. Gospel song, my soul is anchored in the Lord. In the Lord. Only. Jesus is a rock in a weary land. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground is, hey, Christ only, rock of ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home under the shadow of thy throne. Thy saints have dwelt secure, sufficient in thy love alone, and our defense is sure. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, be thou our guide while life shall last, and our eternal home. All my help, somebody said, comes from the Lord. And then somebody said, I will trust in the Lord. I will trust in the Lord. This is the word that gives light in every dark and dreadful situation. This is the word that comforts every challenged soul. This is the word that assures us of deliverance. This is the word that tells us that our help and our hope rest in the unstoppable power and the steadfast love of God. God only. God alone. God always. God because God is love. God because we belong to God. God because God cannot be stopped. God, because as St. Paul said, neither death nor life, nor principalities, nor powers, nor angels, nor demons, nor things present, nor things in the past, nor things in the come, nor height, nor depth, nor things created, nor things seen or unseen, nothing can separate us from the steadfast love of God. And so the faithful soul says, hallelujah and amen.